Hi, I'm Nino Joshua G. Ortega, and today we will share the ideas and concepts about paintings on an engineering perspective. Some of the ideas that we were going to share came from the internet, like the American Coating Association, for example. But most of the information that you can hear all throughout this report can be found on the 10th chapter of Max Fajardo's book entitled Simplified Estimate. The objective of this report is, at the end of this report, the students are expected to know what a paint is, its parts, and its type in an engineering perspective. The students are also expected to discover the requirements for a good quality paint and painting job, and to solve for the fundamentals on estimation for paintings. Now, paints are defined as the coating applied to a surface or substrate to decorate, protect, and perform some other specialized functions. But the two sole purpose of paints is, first is to decorate, which is for aesthetics. Second is to protect, which is for coating. That's why paints are often called as surface coatings. The first reported paint mill in America was reportedly established in Boston in 1700s by Thomas Child. A century and a half later, in 1867, Averill of Ohio patented the first prepared or ready-mixed paints in the United States. Paints has four main chemical ingredients or substances. First, we have the vehicle, second is the solvent, third is the pigment, and fourth is the additive. Now let's proceed to the vehicle or the transporter. Do not be confused with the term vehicle, for it is not a mobile transportation on this topic but a transporter of the ingredients to the substrate. It is a substance which gives a film continuity and provides adhesion to the surface or substrate. It is called vehicle because it carries the ingredients to the substrate which will remain on the surface after the paint had dried. The vehicle contains the film former, which is a combination of resins, plasticizers, and drying oil. It is divided into the solid thermoplastic film formers, the lacquer type film formers, the room temperature catalyzed film formers, the oxidizing film formers, the heat cured film formers, and the emulsion type film formers. The solid thermoplastic film formers is the solid resin is melted for application and solidifies after application, while the lacquer type film former has a vehicle that dries by solvent evaporation. For the room temperature catalyzed film former, the chemical agents are blended into the coating before application that causes cross-linking into a solid polymer at room temperature, while the oxidizing film former has an oxygen from the air enters the film and cross-links it to form a solid gel. The heat causes cross-linking of the film former or activates a catalyst that is not active until heat has been applied, and it is for the heat-cured film formers. While the emulsion type film formers, the solvent evaporation and the droplets of plastic film former floating in it flows together to form a film. The second ingredient of paint is the additive. It is formulated to the paint to modify the properties of either the vehicle or the pigmentation or both. They give the wet paint or dried paint a film property that are not present in the vehicle and pigmentation system. Additives improve a certain properties of vehicles such as speeding drying, pigment resistance to fading, or the entire paint such as the ease of application. The last two remaining ingredients of paint are the solvent and the pigment. Solvents have low viscosity and are volatile liquids used in coating to improve application properties, while pigments are solid grains or particles of uniform and controlled size that is generally insoluble in the vehicle of the coating. It contributes to the following properties. First is for the decoration function. It contributes to opacity, color, and gloss control. And second, for the protective function, it contributes specific properties such as hardness, resistance to corrosion, resistance to rapid weathering, abrasion, and improved adhesion. It serves as an ease of sanding, flame retardance, and electrical conductivity. Pigments are also used to fill space in paint films. Now, a good quality paint must have the following essential and specific properties. First is the adhesion, second is the ease of application, Third is the film integrity. Fourth is the consistent quality. Fifth is the specific properties or the particular use. In addition, coating must stick to the surface or substrate to bring other properties into work. While on the ease of application, paint must be easy to apply by the method prescribed by the manufacturer or of the user. Paint must go onto the substrate in the specified film thickness and dried in the specified time to the desired appearance and possess and the necessary specific properties. The film integrity. The cured or dried film of paint must have all the film properties as claimed by the manufacturer. There should be no weak spots in the film caused by the imperfect film drying or curing. For the consistent quality, paints must be consistent in quality from can to can, batch by batch, shipments to shipments, on color, viscosity, and the application properties and durability. The specified properties should be considered for the particular use of the paint. For example, kitchen enamel must resist grease, heat, and repeated cleaning, while stucco or latex paint must resist water, alkali, sunlight, and permit passage of water vapor, while swimming pool paints must have a specific calorine, water, and sunlight resistance. To attain a good painting job, we must consider these elements. First is the correct surface preparation. We all know that the primary essential property of paint is adhesion, and good adhesion demands proper surface preparation. Second is the choice of the proper paint system. Third is the good application with the right technique and tools. Fourth, the proper application. The tools depends upon the flow properties of the paint being applied. Is the correct drying cycle. The final properties of the dried coating develops during the drying cycle. Unless conditions are correct film properties will never develop. And lastly, the protection against water. Water as the hidden enemy of paint, and it is a pervasive element of deterioration and causes rusting, corrosion, paint peeling, masonry, efflorescence, and spalling, such as wood rot and corrosive water solution or staining seawater. Moisture is the primary cause of paint failure, which is considered as a menace to the best of paint jobs. It is too frustrating to see your lovely new painted house deteriorating so soon, especially if you have bought good paint, used good tools, and spent a lot for its labor. However, the quickest way to achieve paint failure is improper surface preparation. That is why we have the requirements that we must meet for the surface preparation. First is the surface examination. Second is the surface preparation itself. Third is the interior finishes shall be sandpapered between coats. Fourth, plaster or masonry shall be dry before any sealer or paint is applied. And fifth, metal shall be clean, dry, and free from meal scale and rust. There are a lot of paints depending on its kind and uses. And if you want to know more about them, you can refer to Max Fajardo's book, which is entitled Simplified Estimate on Chapter 10, which discusses about paintings, page 260. Now let's take this one as an example. The primer. Primer has an interior primer and sealer and exterior wood primer. So for the interior primer and sealer, it is used for interior wood surfaces with a thinning of paint thinner and a drying time of 2 hours overnight before recoating. The area coverage of this primer per 4 liters is 25 to 30 square meters, while the exterior wood primer is used for the exterior wood surfaces. It has the same thinning with the interior primer and sealer, which is the paint thinner, with a drying time of 2 hours overnight before recoating and an area coverage of 30 to 40 square meter per 4 liters. An example of water-based masonry paint is acrylic gloss latex paint. It is used to interior and exterior masonry paint and with the water as a thinning and a 30 minutes allowable before 6 hours recoating as its drying time and 30 to 40 square meters of area coverage per 4 liters. The common example of roof paint is the Davis roof paint, used to degalvanize roof and other metals material, and with a paint thinner as its thinning and the drying time is 6 hours allowable overnight before recoating with a 30 to 40 square meter area coverage per 4 liters. Now, the preceding examples will be discussed by one of my colleagues, which is Miss Crystal Jean Rule. Tal?
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Another kind of paint is the industrial paints. So these paints are pigmented liquids or powders that are used to protect or beautify substances or underlying substances. These industrial paints are used in the architectural and construction, also in automotive and electronic industries. They are also used in marine, medical, military, optical, semiconductor, and textile applications. There are different types of industrial paints. This includes acrylic, epoxy, and polyester. In a book, there are 20 types of industrial paints that are introduced. So an example of this is the epoxy primer. Epoxy primer is used for steels, aluminum, and galvanized iron. For thinning, epoxy reducer is used. In drying time, it needs 6 hours and allow overnight before recoating an epoxy primer. It can cover up a 30 to 40 square meters per 4 liters. Lastly, we have the primers. So a primer or undercoat is a preparatory coating put on materials before painting. Priming ensures better adhesion of paint to the surface, increases paint durability, and provides additional protection for the material being painted. One example of a primer is the zinc chromate primer. So it is used for exterior and interior metal surfaces exposed to normal industrial environment. For thinning, paint thinner is used and allow 3 hours of drying time. It can cover 30 to 40 square meters. The area coverage of paint per 4 liters can, as specified by the manufacturer, depends upon the porosity of the surface. Surface porosity could be classified into 3 categories. These are the fine surface, semi-rough surface, and rough surface. So generally, the average area coverage per can of 4 liters paint ranges from 30 to 40 square meters depending upon the condition of the surface to receive paint. Under such condition, the first thing to be considered by the estimator is to examine the surface to be painted, if it is concrete, wood, metal, or etc. Verify this condition of the surface and know under what categories does it fall. Only then it is time to select the right kind of paint for the right surface. So there are instances wherein, due to financial constraints, the owner requires his painter to expand the coverage of the paint contrary to the label specifications, and the effects are: 1. Over-thinning reduces the viscosity of the paint. 2. The required film of dried paint could not be attained. And lastly, the quality and durability of paint is sacrificed. The next topic is the paint estimation. While we agree on the manufacturer's estimate of area coverage per 4 liters can of their paint, the promotional aspect of their products could not be discounted. Likewise, the company estimate might be overlooked the following factors that affects the area of the covering of the paint. So these factors are, there are only 2 factors. First is the kind of tools used in painting work, such as brush, ruler, or spray, has its own performance and efficiency relative to the spreading of paint on various surface conditions. Definitely, the spreading capability of the tools will not be the same. Naay unsahay nga mabaga, napoy unsahay nga manipit. So because ana dili gyud ma-exact ang estimate nga area coverage per 4 liters can nga gihatag sa manufacturers. Second factor, any of the tools used for painting applications has its factor of waste for washing and cleaning, including the remains in the can or container. So naman gyud di man gyud maiwasan nga naay mga mabilin nga paint sa sudlanan or sa container, apil na pod sa gigamit nga brush or sa roller or spray. And remember, in order to be safe in the estimate of the paint requirements, adapt the manufacturer's specifications and their estimate as to the area coverage per 4 liters can, with the reservation of 10% allowance per factor. So dapat tagi pa sobra. The following examples for paint estimation will be discussed by Kathleen Padernal.
Thank you, Ms. Rule. We have here 2 examples. For example, number 1, a concrete firewall of a building measures 30 meters long and 12 meters high. And then we have to find the number of 4 liters can latex paint which is required if the firewall has the following conditions. First, if it is a wooden traveled finish or if it is a rough surface. And second, if it is a paper finished or semi-rough surface. For the first condition, which is the wooden traveled finish, first is we need to solve for the wall area, which is 30 by 20 meters, that is 360 square meter. Now that we have already solved for the wall area, we can now solve for the concrete neutralizer. So we divide 360 square meter by 30 square meter, where 30 square meter is the area coverage per gallon of neutralizer for coarse to rough surface. Therefore, we have 12 gallons of concrete neutralizer. So if 1 quart of neutralizer is mixed with 2.5 gallons of water, we divide the 12 gallons by 2.5, and that is 4.8. So let's say 5 quarts of concrete neutralizer or 5 pints of concrete neutralizer. Now we will solve for the concrete primer. You can refer to Section 10-6 under Masonry water-based paint using acrylic concrete sealer as primer, wherein the area coverage per gallon is from 30 square meter to 40 square meter. In solving for acrylic latex paint, we divide 360 square meter by 30 square meter, where 30 square meter is the area coverage again for a coarse to rough surface. Therefore, we have 12 cans of acrylic latex paint primer. We have to multiply it by 2 for 2 coatings. Therefore, we have 24 cans of 4 liters acrylic latex paint. And then we will add 10% of the 24, which is 2.4, for allowance. Therefore, you will order 26.4 or say 27 cans of acrylic latex paint at 4 liters. So for paper finished wall, we have the same area of 360 square meter, and then we will divide the 360 square meter by 35 square meter, where 35 square meter is the area coverage for fine to coarse surface per 4 liters. So that means we have 10.28 cans of 4 liters. We will multiply it by 2 for the second coating. We now have 20.56 cans at 4 liters. We will add 10% allowance. So we have 22.56 cans of 4 liters, or say 23 cans. So we will order 23 cans at 4 liters of acrylic latex paint primer. For example number 2, a 10 classroom 2-story building has a T&G lumber flooring resting on a 50 mm by 200 mm dressed floor joist without a ceiling. The president of the school requires the bill of materials for the painting of the joists and the TNG underflooring. So after the inspection, it is recommended to use flat wall enamel paint. Now first is we solve for the area of one classroom ceiling. Area of the TNG surface is 23 strips times 0.25 meters times 9 meters, that is 51.76 square meter. For the area of the floor joist, area of the floor joist is equal to 23 pieces times 0.45 times 9 meters, which is 93.15 square meter. So the area of one classroom ceiling is area of the TNG surface plus area of the floor joist, that is 51.76 square meter plus 93.15 square meter equals 144.91 square meter, or say 145 square meter per classroom. Then we will divide the area coverage by 40, which is the area coverage for smooth to fine surface. So we get 36.25 cans of 4 liters enamel paint. Multiply it by 2 for the second coating, that is 72.5, and then we'll add 10% of that, which is 7.25 for allowance. So we have 79.75, or say 80 cans at 4 liters. So to solve for the paint thinner, the manufacturer specify 1/2 liters per 4 liters of paint. Therefore, 80 cans multiplied by 1/2 liters per can is equal to 40 liters. And then again, we'll add 10% of that for allowance, which is 4 liters. Therefore, the president should order 44 liters, 4 cans at 4 liters of flat wall enamel paint. That's it for the examples. Now I will return the floor to Miss Rule for the paint failure and remedy.
Now I am going to talk about paint failures and the things that you need to do or you can do to overcome this. So the excess moisture, flat grained wood, high porosity in paint, and applying a new paint coat without proper preparation of the old surface can all lead to early paint failure. The most common cause of premature paint failure on wood is moisture. Paint on the outside walls of the houses is subject to wetting from rain and dew. There are 10 different types of paint failure. First is the blistering or filling. Blistering, in definition, is the formation of bubbles in the exterior decorative paint film, resulting from localized loss of adhesion that can quickly lead to paint flaking and peeling. It occurs when the moisture trapped in the siding evaporates from the wood when exposed to sun pushes the paint out the surface. For the remedy, you can find and eliminate the sources of moisture, and you can also scrap off old paint around the blistered area, let dry, apply good primer, then final paint of good quality. The second type of paint failure is the chalking. It is a loose, white powdery pigment residue on the surface of a coating accompanied by a loss of sheen and color. It means that your paint was too thin, nipis ra kaayo, without the required paint film. What you can do about this is be more generous to your paint. Spend a little for 2 coatings. So medyo nimo baga-bagaan nimong paint. Sakto ra sad nga maigo gyud ang imong gi-estimate nga paint for the surfaces. Third type is the paint flaking. It is a damaging phenomenon that occurs when paint cracks or flakes off the underlying structures. It is the result of inadequate or poor surface preparation. The paint flakes off in scales or powders and chalk off. So what you can do about this, you need to remove the paint on affected area by wire brushes. Seal all cracks against moisture by concrete neutralizer, then apply final coat of latex paint. Cracking and alligatoring is the fourth type of paint failure. Alligatoring paint is paint that has cracked in a pattern that resembles an alligator's scale. This means that paint was applied in several heavy coats, not observing the sufficient drying time between coats. So bisag wala pa kaayo na nauga, gisapawan na. Then the owner or the contractor might have been so in a hurry to finish the job. Another cause is when the undercoat was not compatible with the finished coat. So ang paint, lahi ang paint nga gigamit, so dili siya compatible with each other. So ang imong dapat himon ani, remove the paint, clean the surface and apply a good primer, then final coat. Another type of paint failure is the paint checking and flaking. Paint checking are cracks of various lengths and widths that show up in the top coat. It is caused by expansion of or contraction of wood. For the remedy, it is the same with the blistering. You need to find and eliminate the sources of moisture and scuff off the old paint around the blistered area. Sixth is the peeling or cracking of paint on galvanized sheet. In description, it is the paint that has lost its adhesion to galvanized metal surfaces. So it indicates the use of improper metal primer or no primer at all. The paint film has no adhesion. For the remedy, strip off all loose paint, clean with solvent, dry, then apply a galvanized paint. The remaining types of paint failure will be discussed by Kathleen Padernal. Kath?
Thank you again, Miss Rule. The seventh type of paint failure is fading. Fading of paint is a normal behavior. However, if fading is already too fast and excessive, that means that you applied a poor kind of paint. And this usually happens when for a few cents of difference in cost, the quality was sacrificed. So the remedy for this failure is to repaint. But you have to make sure that you buy the best brand of paint, for good paint contains more and better pigment than the cheaper one. Next paint failure is the bleeding. Bleeding is caused by inadequate sealing at the first paint application or on the first coat of paint. The remedy for bleeding is to scrape off the wood surfaces, then repaint. The next type of paint failure is the mildew. Mildew thrives on high humidity and temperature. It is a discoloration on the wall or on the paint because of the fungi, which stimulates and grows on the paint film. If covered by a new paint, this paint failure will still be visible, or it will just be the same because the fungi will still grow through the new coat of paint. So the remedy for this failure is to wash the surface with mid-wash solution diluted with water. Then scrub the paint or scrub the wall with this kind of paint failure, and then rinse with clean water and allow 48 hours to dry, then apply the final paint. The last type of paint failure is the staining, which is an effect of wood preservatives or rust of nails. There are 3 steps for the remedy of this failure. First is to remove the paint on affected area. Third is to remove rust on nails, then apply lead primer to metal and wood primer. And then lastly is to apply final coat with good quality house paint. Now let's proceed to wallpapering. The term wallpaper refers not only to paper substances that are pasted on the walls of our living room or our bedroom, but also includes vinyl, cork, fabrics, grass cloth, foils, and many other surface covering materials which are available in the market or even on online shops. So before you buy a wallpaper or before you purchase a wallpaper, you have to estimate how many wallpapers or the length of the wallpaper or the size to provide extra rolls in anticipation of the following. First is the replacement of ruined or damaged material in handling or working. Second is an additional area which are not included in the original plan. Third is for future repair, which might be so necessary that needs the original batch for color and design matching. Fourth is the size of the wallpaper to cover the surface depends not only on the area of the surface but also on the wallpaper pattern. And then fifth is trim can be used as a decorative border and it is sold by the yard or meter. So that's why you have to provide extra rolls in having your wallpaper. Now let's proceed to the three kinds of vinyl wallpaper. The first kind is the vinyl laminated to paper. Second is vinyl laminated to cloth. Third is the vinyl impregnated cloth on paper backing, which is extremely durable, easy to clean, and resistant to damage. By the way, vinyl is a synthetic man-made plastic material that is widely used in construction due to its durability and effectiveness. Vinyl wallpaper consists of a base and a vinyl film that is layered on top. And this process is done to create a durable wallpaper that is thick, washable, and long-lasting. There are three cautions in buying vinyl wallpaper. First is to examine the label if it is vinyl coated only. These are not wear-resistant, grease-resistant, or washable. Never confuse them with vinyl wallpaper. Second is, in hanging your vinyl wallpaper, always use and specify vinyl mildew-resistant adhesive only. And third is, vinyl wallpaper stretches if pulled. Hairline cracks will appear at seams as wallpaper shrinks when it dries. Hence, avoid stretching your vinyl wallpaper. Foil is another type of wallpaper simulated metallic finish or aluminum laminated paper. In using the foil, there are three things to remember. First is, do not fold or wrinkle the foil because there is no remedy for the creases. Second is, smooth surface is required to avoid reflective surfaces as foil magnify any imperfections on the surface to which it is attached. And third is, use mildew-resistant vinyl adhesive only. Foil wallpapers are possibly the most varied, dramatic, and exciting range of wall coverings you can buy, but are also one of the most difficult to hang successfully, because they are made from thin metallic foil in a range of plain colors or patterns screen printed onto the surface. Grass cloth, hemp, burlap, and cork are materials which are mounted on paper backing, which could be weakened from over-soaking with paste. Hence, paste one strip at a time. Grass cloth is an umbrella term commonly used to describe wall covering made from hand-woven strands of natural fibers on an unpasted rice paper backing. The fibers include hemp, jute, seagrass, arrowroot grass, bamboo, and raffia. The last type of wallpaper are the flocks. Flocks are made of nylon or rayon available on paper, vinyl, or foil wallpapers. In using flocks, use paint roller or squeegee for best result.
Flock wallpaper features a raised pattern on the wallpaper surface, and they have a velour or velvet-like feel.
Here is a table of the wallpaper technical data, which can be seen on the book by Max Fajardo, which is the simplified estimate. So the table shows the width, the length, and the effective covering or roll, as well as the adhesive box per roll. In buying or using wallpaper, we need to estimate the number of box or the rolls that we need to use for our wall. So we have these estimating procedures. We have 5. First is to determine the area of the surface to receive wallpaper. And then second is to subtract the openings such as the doors and windows. And then third is to divide the net wall area by the effective covering of the wallpaper size as selected from the table 10-1 to get the number of roll, or the table which was presented earlier. And then fourth is to add 5 to 10% allowance depending upon the design pattern. And lastly is to multiply the number of rows by the corresponding value of adhesive to get the number of boxes as required.
And that's it for our report about paintings. I hope you already know what a paint is and you already know how to solve for the fundamentals on estimation for paintings, and also I hope you have discovered the requirements for a good quality paint and painting shop. Thank you and God bless.